You want to start?
Okay. So guys,
Good.
this is okay. Few more people joined in. Okay. So about 9, we'll start. Hello everybody. So
Mhm.
my name is Sankalp. I have been working remotely for a US company called SellerCrowd. So they have two products as of now, sellercrowdandcode.com. And I joined them about 2.5 years back. And before that, I was with Wingify in Delhi and Pune. So Wingify makes SaaS products. One of the famous ones they have is VWO. So I worked with them for a couple of years. Then I moved to this remote company and have been doing this for about 2.5 years, as mentioned. And because of this coronavirus, I have been seeing people mentioning that they're struggling quite a lot with working from home. Everybody has their own complaints, concerns, questions. So, and then I initially saw Shubham posting a vlog where he was mentioning his own struggles with remote jobs. So I thought we can do a 1 hour or something like that, quick chat on what are the common questions people have, and how I'll share how I work mostly, and then we will take questions at the end of the session. I think, yeah, because Shivam has already have some questions noted down, so maybe we'll just go through those first, and then at the end we'll just open up to Q&As.
Yeah.
Okay, but before that, I think since we thought to start at 9:05. How about we go with a little introduction from around the table? Just I think name and where do you guys work would be
Yeah.
fine. So just to know everybody. Yeah.
So that we have a better idea of whom we are catering
Yeah.
to and all of that.
Shubham,
Yeah.
you can start.
So yeah. So hi guys. My name is Shubham Bhatt, and I work as a product designer at Udan. It's been like 8 months I've been doing that, and last 2 weeks I've been working remotely. So 3 days, the initial 3 days were a struggle, and that's how this webinar got planned. He saw my live, and then the conversation started off. So yeah.
Okay. I think we'll start, Shubham. Guys, just to
Yeah.
reiterate, how we are going to do this is Shubham already has the basically Shubham is hosting this AMA. I am not, and Shubham has already taken few questions from the social media channels, and we'll go through them first, and post that we'll open up with the questions from you guys. Okay.
Yeah. So how this is the format is that I have some specific questions that we have crowdsourced from the internet, and some specific questions from my side as well. So we'll first go through that, and if in case you have any questions, like keep that for the end. We'll have a Q&A session there. So sounds fair, right? Okay.
Yep.
I think it sounds fair. So Sankalp, this question is to you, obviously. The
Yeah.
size of the team that you work with, so that we have a
Hmm.
better understanding of,
Yeah.
okay, like what kind of team you work with.
Right. Let me, yeah, I'm sorry. Let me open that up. So what type of company and what is the team
Sure.
size? So currently SellerCrowd. So just to iterate, guys, I work with a US company called SellerCrowd. It's fully a remote company. And it's a 15-member team, 15 to 20 member team. And so how it's distributed is a couple of people work from, mostly leadership people, CEO and marketing head. All these people work from the West, mostly from Colombia, US, these places. Developers are distributed again in some places of Europe. QA people are there in Europe as well. One developer is in Nepal, and I am the design the company. I work from India. So that's the basic, I think, intro of the company. Again, 15 to 20 member team, and we are divided across time zones, and we'll get into how we work. Yeah, so that's the
Sure.
basic context. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to iterate on this fact that I have some generic questions as of now that will
Hmm.
cover the basics of remote work do's and don'ts, and then we'll
Yeah.
get into specific questions that we have crowdsourced.
Right.
So yeah. So this is regarding, like, it's out of curiosity, right? Just wanted to know that you took a remote job before it was cooler or a necessity. So what were the driving factors for that?
So I during college I read this book called The 4 Hour Work Week, and
Yeah.
In that they mention how you can actually go remote and save time and have more time to your own projects and all the other fun stuff that you want to do. And then basically going remote saves you time in traffic. You get saved from the noisy office spaces. There are tons and tons of pros of going remote. So I had that in my mind, but then I was just starting out, so I just joined a couple of companies, worked there, and then the last stint when it was coming to an end, I thought, let me. I applied couple of companies too, and they didn't work out, and finally this clicked. So I completely believe that job market is purely luck. So there's hard work that you can do, but going remote, especially from Asia, is somewhat harder. So one of the things, key points that I want to highlight for people who are thinking to go remote for companies in the West, it could be harder because of the time zones. Companies from the West don't hire people a lot from the East, only because of the time zones. And I just got lucky. But I think now that I have gained experience working remotely, I might have a better chance applying and getting jobs in few other companies from the West. But it's still harder, yes, because the remote culture has been going on and has been established in the West for quite some time now, and the market pool is quite large there, so people don't turn to East at all right now. And so it goes both ways for as supply and demand. Even if there's good demand, like sorry, even if there's a good amount of supply, like all the designers here and other people who want to go remote, there's not even enough supply. So companies need to go remote to for designers and other people to be able to take up these jobs here in India or anywhere in the Asia. Yes.
Sure. And the next question is that you were working as a designer at Wingify, right? And
Yes.
then you took
Yes.
this job. So how was that transition? How were your initial days? Asking this because so that we can also relate that is it
Right.
not
Right.
only us that we are
Right.
facing these issues in the
Right.
beginning?
So initially, as I said, I read a couple of books that prepped me up, and just one of the major things that I want to highlight here is remote is not for everyone. Some people just get into it very smoothly because they don't really require tons of people around on a day-to-day basis, and some people do need that. So going remote will be a harder task for people who like to be around people. So yeah, when and that's not the case for me. I don't need people around me all the time. So that was a easy transition for me. But how I structured it during initial days is that, so I was in Pune when I was signing out from Pingify. So I stayed in Pune for the first 4 months because when you're going remote, moving around right on the day one or the first month is not suggested. At least I won't suggest, because there are tons of challenges that you'll come across when you're working remotely. So these are the things that I analyzed beforehand, and I thought I shouldn't go remote first. I shouldn't start traveling. I shouldn't change places. So I stayed there for 4 months, was it out. How the transition was in a way that uh, I knew that I can structure it in different ways. I can wake up at 10 and clock off at 6, but then it depends who you're working with, who you need to get in touch with every day, if there's sync up or stand up happening on a daily basis. And if it's a time zone thing, so for me, my company has employees all around the globe, and I have to sync with the QA people, the dev people, and the CEO as well at the end of the, and the PM too. So that gave me a good gist beforehand. So when you're taking up these remote jobs, just give me 1 second. My AC is too cold. I'll turn it off. 1 second. Sorry.
No problem.
Yes. So when you're taking up the remote job, make sure you are fully aware of who you are going to work with, which time zones they are at, Do they require you to work late nights, which is if you're West and the leadership is in the West, so leadership won't really sacrifice that much. But in my case, it was equally distributed. So we run on Eastern timings because most of our employees are from Europe. So sorry, we run on Europe timing, and because most of the employees are in Europe, so the leadership team who's in the West, they time shift a little early. So they usually wake up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning. And similarly, people in the East, so me and a couple of other developers who are in the East here, India, Nepal, there's one in Russia as well. So we time shift a little late to the night. So some of you might question that or get raise concern like, I don't want to work that late, which is fine. But then it gives you other flexibility. You're just trading off one thing with another. So yeah, coming back to your original question, don't want to stretch it long, but to coming back to your original question, when you're initially uh, joining the company, looking for a remote job, make sure you know who you're going to be working with, what are their time zones. If the time zone is not comfortable for you, I would suggest don't take the job, even if the pay is higher or you see others shiny rewards. Don't take the job. Yeah, look for something else. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I can see that there are like many design leaders and design managers out here. So for them, this question makes sense. That how's the does the delivery of task happens, like the assignment of task and then the delivery of task, the hands off and all of that happens in your organization. So
Yeah.
do you have a daily stand up? Do you follow some framework or something of that sort?
So yeah, let me, before I get in that, let me touch base on types of communication. So there are two types of communication in remote: synchronous and asynchronous. The difference between two is synchronous is which you do right then and there, which we do here in India, working from an office. So you are sitting beside me in an office, I'll just get hold of you and say like, Shubham, let's go have a chat. We'll pull up a meeting room and we'll just chat. So that's synchronous. Asynchronous is where you just go write stuff up on Slack or any other communication channel that you might have there, and then people at their own ease will come back and reply to those. So in remote, asynchronous makes more sense. In a physical office space, the where everybody is crammed into just one big office, synchronous makes more sense. Now, for companies who are in different time zones, the employees are in different time zones. They need to be working in the mixture of synchronous and asynchronous. What do I mean by that is, say I am online, so I go online usually at 12 noon or 11 a.m. in the morning, and then I just start my work. Then around 1 p.m. In the noon, the devs from the and other people from the Europe will start coming online because that's their morning time. So I get some overlap time with them, and then the CEO will come around 5 or 6 p.m. evening time. So how I space it out is I start late and then I close off late, and then in between I take breaks. Coming back to your question, this is the context of how we work here in this remote job. So I have touched base on this. I'll move on to how we share stuff, how we communicate, and then I'll talk about how Indian companies need to do it, because it's the Indian companies, everybody is just in India, nobody is in different time zones. So it won't make sense to time shift early or work out late. Now, so how we communicate is, as I said, I will have some overlap times with the devs, the QA, the PM, or the CEO. In case so if there's overlap time, I am online, they are online. If we need to talk about something very strategic, we will go on a Zoom call like this one. But if we don't have anything very specific, and say devs just want a link for the asset or just want to be pointed out to a design link, then just ping me on Slack. So as you can see, we are choosing asynchronous, synchronous as required, as when needed, based on the requirement of the person. Uh,
So basically, you plan your overlap time for the important communication, basically.
we
Is
do.
that what you
So
mean?
it
Yeah.
depends. So a couple of companies like Automatic, Envision, they do fully asynchronous communications. So what do I mean by that is, again, they will just they hardly will go to the call, except I've heard in Automatic only the leadership gets on calls. They do synchronous communication for strategies. The rest of the people in the company, they do asynchronous. So they will have all the links posted to a Slack channel or mentioned out somewhere. So coming back to the question of how do we collaborate is, so a couple of pointers here. One, your work should always be on the cloud, meaning if you don't need to be on Figma, which allows you to design on the cloud. But even if you're working in on Sketch or InVision, I'm just talking about designs. But if this can be applied to any other tool, if these are offline files, make sure you're saving these files in a Dropbox folder or a Google Drive folder, and share all these links with the team members. Uh, then on top of that, always maintain a single source of truth. What do I mean by that is, whichever are the main files, whichever are the original folders where PMs can look at the feature documents, other requirements mentioned, always mention a source of truth. So if someone is not available, say the PM was in charge of creating these documents, sharing these documents, and if he or she is not available, then you're done for the day. You have no idea how to get those files or how to get to those information. So always make sure you have single source of truth, mentioning that can be any document. So how we do it is we maintain a GitHub repository for all these things. So say we have different features that we are working on the product. Each feature will have its own GitHub issue page, and in that issue we will divide the sections. Say what this feature is. That will be the first section. Second section would be what are the design links, what are the design folders links are, where the assets mentioned, what are the requirements for the devs. So we will break everything in very good amount of detail in this long pages, and that's available to the whole team. So no matter who goes offline, it's always available to anyone. So that's how we mostly communicate. So in terms of communication, in terms of requirements, so if I have a requirement and it's not available on the single source of truth pages, I will then we can choose based on the requirement. If it's too urgent, if it's a blocker, then I will ping someone to get on a call and resolve this. Otherwise, I'll just drop a message and let them come back to me. That's how the most of the people work. And uh, as a word of caution, it's very easy to lose a day when you're working remotely. What do I mean by that is, say if you are responsible for a meeting or to share designs, you were working on a design and you had to add the links of these designs at the end of the day, and you're not available. So the whole team loses a day. So and if five people wanted to sit down and review these designs at the end of the day, they don't have the designs now, and they don't know when you will come back. So always make sure. So this goes back to the communication ethics and rules and policies of remote job. Is that always make sure that when you're going away from your desk, if you're not available for the day, just mark yourself unavailable. Mention the reason if you want to, uh, publicly. Don't do it as a DM. A lot of people start sliding these informations on the DMs, which is not the good idea. Which is not a good idea at all, because some other developer might need those informations, and it should be publicly available. Yes. So that's how we all in all mostly collaborate. Yes.
Okay, so this is about like we'll touch on the tools that you use, but
Yeah.
for the task assignment part of it, right? Do you use
Yep.
some tools like Trello or Asana or something of that sort?
Yes, we use Trello.
Okay. Others, you might have to put yourself on mute.
I'll mute him. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um, so we do use your Trello to manage all the project related stuff. But at the same time, we are using it, as I said, for the requirement collection and design links and everything else. For me, me and the PM, we mostly track all the day-to-day activities on Trello. Yes. So in terms of tools, I'll just touch upon what we use. We use Zoom for most of the calls. Okay, Parthian and Trello with Slack or any other. So we do Trello with the integrations hardly matter part, because you will anyway be switching between different tools, and most of these tools have integration. We don't really use these integrations because how we do things is there will be Trello boards made for uh, individual features, and then I'll track, or the project manager will track those there. And if that needs to be shared publicly, we'll just copy the link and share it on the Slack channel. Integration hardly makes. I tried InVision also. The integration of InVision is there with the Slack, but it hardly makes any sense. In terms of communication, I was going to say that stick to Zoom. We have tried at SellerCrowd multiple video and conferencing softwares. We really like Zoom because of the stability it provides. It accommodates tons and tons of people without any lag. It also records by default. So these are the things that we identify that we want any remote a person would want. Say, so this also goes back to uh, this also goes back to, say, a couple of people wanted to meet and discuss some strategy, and one of them goes missing for some reason. They took the day off. Now what happens is you can record the call here, and then you can share the link right then and there with the person who's missing, or with the whole team. So that's for communication, for synchronous communication, meaning
Yeah.
video and audio calls. For asynchronous communication, feel free to choose anything. We mostly do Slack. Most of the companies that I know use Slack for asynchronous communications. Then on other end, what else do we use? Loom. So another tip here is sometimes the designer or the PM that you're collaborating with might not be available, and if you want, you can wait, but you have no idea when they are going to come, because if they start working remotely, and they will scatter their times differently. So what you can do is create a video going through, create a walkthrough of whatever variations you tried, and then you can create a link and share that. And a traditional way of doing this, which we did initially, was I used to open QuickTime Player here in Mac, and then I used to record everything, put that in a Dropbox folder, create that link, and then send it to the person. But then that's tons of actions required. Loom is a software which does that very easily. So you just record, annotate anything, and then just they'll create a link for you. They'll also upload your video to the cloud. So Loom is another video we use sometimes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing is that discipline is a key factor while working remote work, right, effectively. So how do you plan your day, and how do you enforce discipline in your, because right now, currently, personally, I'm facing a difficulty in doing that because I kind of oversleep and all of that. So how do you enforce discipline
Okay.
in a routine basis?
Yeah, this is a very common question that I heard even on social media, and a couple of friends too. How I do it might not work for you, because I schedule it based on how my team is structured. I work with a company where everybody is in different time zones. So initially, I used to start my day at 10 and then clock off at 5 or 6, because the PM I was working with back then, about a year back, he used to time shift. He was in the US and used to time shift at 5 a.m. Now he's gone, and I'm working with a different PM and the CEO. So and they don't time shift that much, so I have to move my timings to little later at the night. So if I'm working little later at the night, so usually that's 8 p.m. my time, where I clock off. So then I start a little late, or if I start a little early, I'll take a good amount of break in between. So say I start at 10 these days, then I'll break off for lunch for 2 or 3 hours, and then I'll start back again at 3 or 5, and then go to 8. So usually I end up working for 6 to 7 hours, but and I think mostly, and that's the upside of remote, mind you, because in office hardly anyone works for 3 to 4 hours. So no matter what anyone is telling you, if you really want to find the truth, clock your timings of work. And I did this experiment when I was Wingify. When you're in the office 8 hours, you're going to be there 8 to 9 hours. Hardly people work for 3 to 4 hours. That's max. And when you're switching to remote, a couple of hours you will save on water cooler conversations, or I'm not saying water cooler conversations are bad, but you'll save on those. The noisy distractions of the office, you'll save on those. So you'll end up working more. But even if you don't want to work more, you can stay. You want to stay at your time limit what you were working in the office. The upside is, again, you're gaining these times. So yeah, that's the on the tools. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is about social interactions, though it is not the right time to have social interactions these days.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but for social interactions in general, right? There can be days with no social interactions as such. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you save? Like, is it good or bad, and how do you deal with it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your hack?
So hack is just to address the Saptashi saying disagree with 3 4 hours. I know Saptashi works longer. I had a chat with him earlier, but in general, what I've noticed is people don't. There could be exceptions who people who like working, but then as a general, as you progress, then I think people take more responsibility. People become more responsible. But if you're early in your career, people don't work that much. The office, I found. From my experience, and I've also noticed other people working in Wingify, distraction is a biggest blocker of long duration of work hours, which I have gained after going remote. So yeah, sorry, your question was
About social interactions? Yeah.
how
Like,
to
is it
maintain,
good or
how
bad?
to,
How? Yeah. So
yeah.
that you don't
So
become a loner,
yeah,
basically.
right. So again, first thing I'll highlight is remote job. As I said, remote job is not for everybody. Not everybody can go remote and embrace remote for the first in the first month. So what you really need to do is so you can approach it in a couple of ways. One, if you have a family and you've recently started working from home, you will not feel lonely. But then if you are missing your colleagues, you want to have a chat with them, you can always ping them on Slack. You can always go on a video calls or voice calls with them. um, you can always go and call them, so that's an option. So what I have done after going remote is I usually start my day at 10 or 11. I'll work for an hour or so, and then I'll call a couple of friends or my mom or dad, just to break that monotony that I don't have people around me. And you can do that in different ways. So when I was in Pune, when I was just starting out the remote job, there was a couple of coffee shops, tea shops just below my building, and I used to go there and just hang out there. I didn't needed people to be around me, like people I knew, but general people, if they are just around me, I see people. Because I think mostly what we'll miss in remote job is seeing people. I think people don't miss, I could be wrong here, but I think people don't miss talking to people, just start feeling lonely because they don't see people around them. So you can break that here. Uh, you can break that by going to tea or coffee cafes, but that's not a good idea at this point. So how
Yeah.
to cope up with that right now is you can create, you can call, of course, call your family members. You will break that monotony. You can call your colleagues via Slack or any other communication tool. But apart from all that, also make sure you have a daily stand up or daily water cooler conversation hangout time. So you can do that by just saying, you don't make it mandatory for the whole team because some people might not like it. Some people don't want to be there all the time, or even for that specific time. What you can do is you can just ask your team members that, okay, I'm going to be hanging out at 5 from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. every evening at this link. And if someone wants to join, they can join, and you just chit chat, and parallelly you can work. But in my experience, as you work more and more in remote, you will feel less need for doing these water cooler conversations. But there
Yeah.
are ways where you can cope up with it. I will not say it will beat a face-to-face conversation, but it is what it is. If you have to go remote, if you have to work from home, there are ways you can work around it. Yes.
Sure. Now this is about health and physical movements and
Mhm.
stuff. How do you plan that? And because I've seen that you have done martial arts and all of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what was the motivation behind it? And like, is it really necessary? Though it is really necessary, yeah. But what's your
Yeah.
take on
So
that?
health and fitness in general is required. And right now, even in my society, everything's closed down. The clubhouse has been closed down. So there's no way to go. But in general, I have been doing yoga every morning, uh, even before going remote. So that has helped a lot. I do meditation im- to better the mental health also. So when you're working remote, you'll start feeling isolation. You'll start feeling the depression. You will be more
Yeah.
anxious. So these can't be cured by just walking around or talking to people. You need to really take care of your mental health too. So I will suggest, I usually do the meditations and the yoga. That helps a lot. But anything else, if you think helps you in curbing the mental thing,
Yeah.
like talking to people, a lot of people find talking to people helpful, so do that. So that's there. But for in the case of coronavirus, you are at home. You can of course do the basic exercises every day just to stay healthy. And of course, just to point out, I know you guys have been seeing and have been bombarded this on social media as well. But you guys need to take care of your immune system a lot, and that can be only done by exercising and eating things which good stuff which improves your immunity. So yeah.
Like, I think it's a good time to bring the question that how to establish boundaries between your personal life and work life. Amit is asking that.
Okay. I just recalled, I'll just add to how I do. So in morning, I'll just do yoga. I thought just
Okay.
better to add how I do it. So
Sure.
I'll usually do
Yeah.
the yoga and other stuff, meditation stuff in the morning. And then throughout the day, I'll space out my work timing. So I'll work for 1 or 2 hours, and then I'll break for an hour or so, or 40 minutes or whatever. And in between, since I work from home, I take care of my house. I'll clean, I'll mop, I'll do the dishes. When you start working from home, there will be a ton of stuff that will find out that there needs to be done done at the house. When you're in the office, there's an office boy who will bring you the cup of tea.
Sure.
They will clean it for you. So these are all basic small movements that will add to your daily routine. If you really want and like it. Some people might not, because I saw a couple of people complaining also on social media. Like one Google employee was complaining like, I miss the free food, I miss the free lunch, I miss the free dinner. And because I'm now taking care of all these three, I have to do the dishes, I have to go out and buy the vegetables also. So for me, the way I see it, these are very little ways where it enables you to move, it allows you to move, which is a good thing if you're working remotely. uh, it's not a bad thing. Yeah.
So yeah, you take kind of breaks in between and then finish all of these things, the
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
course and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
Sure.
I'll, for example, I'll keep my water. I don't sit with a jug of or a bottle of water. I'll sit with a glass of water, and the jar or the bottle is outside. It's at the dining area. So I'll always walk out to
Okay.
get a fill another one. Yes.
Sure. Sure. So this is about like longer working hours versus productive working hours. Priti is asking that.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest? Like, you do work in one complete stretch, or you take breaks in between, and then, like you've already said that you take breaks in between, but what do you suggest in general for the people who are
So
new to
it
this?
depends. Everybody works in different ways. Some people are generally tuned to have more focus. Some people usually have less focus. I am on the side of less focus. I lose focus easily. um, and then so what you can do is, so first identify how you exactly work, and based on that you can tweak. So for example, since I lose my focus very quickly, I use this alarm clock kind of things. It's like you can turn it out for 30 minutes or so, and then it'll start ticking like this. So it's a
Yeah.
Pomodoro technique that you can use to bring the focus back here. There are also digital tools which you can use to do that. But if so, but I think the question is more about long working hours versus working hours.
Productive working. Yeah.
Smart work, I think, and versus long. So again, there's I have been debating on work-life balance for quite some time now. I'm in favor of work-life balance, but for some people, for people who like working, or people who don't who can't find focus very easily, they have to put in a long hours. So you can't do much, but if you're one of those people and you want to start going towards less working hours and more output, focus is the only aspect you need to focus on. So yeah, just try different ways where you can just focus on sit down and focus on getting things done, and then clock off. Yes.
And this is a very generic question, like how do you remain productive? Because we are constantly on the screen, right? And then there can be multiple
Yes.
tabs opened up with
Yeah.
social media. One,
Yeah.
it will be like one YouTube video, and then
Right.
you like spend 1 hour doing that. So how do
Right.
you deal with that?
So in office, general offices, you will do less YouTubes, although you will when you move to a meeting room. I have done it, but usually I've noticed people. So people anyway waste time, and not wait. I shouldn't call it wasting time. Time off from work also helps you do better work when you get back at it. So these are basically smoke breaks for people. It doesn't need to be the exact smoking break. You don't need to smoke a cigarette, but it comes in form of watching YouTube video. People go and play TT. I'm talking about in offices. People go and talk to other colleagues. But when you're working remotely, the only way to stay productive is again making your work time and separating. Just make sure that you have good amount of times allocated for the work, and then close off all the social media tabs that you have. I know it's very simple, sounds simple advice, but it's really effective. So when I do the Pomodoro technique, I set up the alarm clock for 25 minutes and it's ticking. I hear the sound. I don't open any other thing because I know it's ticking. It's giving me that feel that, okay, time is running out. I'll focus on 25 minutes or 30 minutes, and then I'll just open Facebook or something else. So I'm not going to suggest against stop opening social media, open as much as you want. But when you're working, just try to break down your work in small chunks of minutes, like 30 minutes, work 30 minutes, take a 10-minute break. Again, go have water or talk to somebody or just take a eye break, whatever. But then and also sometimes I've tried closing Slack altogether. I mentioned this to my team members who I work with, that I'm going to be off from for 2 hours now. I'm working on something. I don't need distraction. I'll close off Slack. For some people, it might seem very disruptive, because if they want to reach out, what you will do. So that brings us to the point of self-manufactured timelines, which will be a big blocker if you're working remotely. So whatever time limits you have for the whole team, start trying to be a little flexible on these ones. That someone might miss a deadline for some engagement back at their home, and now for the coronavirus, somebody might have to take care of their wives or some other person back at home. So productivity will go up and down. So you need to be flexible. So it has to be done from both ends. The managers have to be a little flexible on the timelines, and be very open and transparent on how the team is working, how they are feeling. Are they right on track? And from the individual contributors point of view, they also have to be very upfront of when they are going offline, when they are not going to show up at work, and also focus on their own skills at just becoming better at shipping stuff. Yes.
So what you essentially mean to say is that you do deep work in those 30 minutes and then you take a break and do the social
Right.
media distractions and whatever is there.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
I usually take a
deep work is
nap
the
too.
keyword, I guess.
So someone asked a question on social media,
Yeah.
can I take a nap? You can. You should actually. I mean, I do. I don't know if people would be comfortable, but I do. I do take naps of 15 minutes or something. Sometimes it goes up to 1 hour, but I think that's okay. Because when I get up and I feel very refreshed, I go back at work and I'm feeling recharged. I do good work and then I clock off happily. So yeah.
Sure. And like this is about the downsides. Let's talk about the downsides of remote work. So
Mm.
but you have felt over like 2.5 years of your stint, right? Like what
Mm.
are the downsides?
So downsides, as I said, sometimes I had to my calls went up till 10 p.m. in the at the night. But I think that's okay for me. You have to. So it's again a trade-off. You are trading off the office commute time and. But just make sure if you are always staying late for office calls, then something is wrong. The work should have been done by 6 p.m. If everybody is in India, but if usually you guys are sitting back and having calls late at night by till 9 or 10 p.m., then you need to change stuff. Again, then loneliness and all the other things that I touched upon. These are very common patterns of side effects that you can call of remote job, and there are ways you can work around it. But I think the one of the good things that you can do is over communicate with your team members, over communicate with your family when you are remote. Call up your friends.
Yeah.
You will feel very very related with your friends, that okay, they are feeling too, I'm feeling too, I'm not alone in this. And it's just a mental shift that just you need to wait for it and uh, wait for it to go. Because the way I see it, remote job is not bad, but remote job adapting to any change is hard. So you just have to
Hmm.
wait it out. And you can't do anything right now because of coronavirus. You just have to wait it. You can't just snap and say I'm going to go to
Yeah.
office.
So this is the last question from my side. So after this
Mm.
whole COVID-19 things slows down, right? Hope it does real soon. So
Mm.
what changes you expect to see with respect to people working remotely? Like, will they continue it, or like what changes you expect?
I have no idea. My experience is companies will go back to working from offices, because that's how. So one of the major things that I noticed working with people here in India and people in the West, that they are less micromanaging. And also because of the fact that most of these project and product management philosophies has come from the West mostly. So they are more mature in those terms. They are more accepting of the work culture, and they have adopted these things much early on compared to us. And we have good amount of uh, curve to follow in India. So I think judging based on how companies operate here, and companies managers mostly operate here, how managers have been trained, I think it's, I don't know if it's for good or bad, but I think companies will go back to working from their offices. Yeah. And it might be that
So,
some employees hate it, like they don't want to go back. But someone would be, yeah, I definitely want to go back, because I missed the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah.
yeah, definitely, I'm not going back to the
Yeah,
this thing office thing. Yeah. So let's take
that
questions
you
from
can't decide. I mean, if your manager says you have to, then
yeah.
but I hope they are on your side. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take the questions from the internet that we have crowdsourced.
Okay.
This question is from Ankur. So he
Okay.
says that how to not end up overworking and exhausting yourself as you are at home and there's no stop button.
Okay. Yeah. But this is a very common question and general concern of people who start working remotely. So set boundaries, fix a start time, and set up a log of time. So most of days, I think 95% of the times I have logged off at 8 p.m. no matter what. It also helps in having a life outside your work, so not something on the computer, because then if you're at your computer, then you are again sitting back, and you'll find ways to go back to work. So how I have done it is separating is I clock off, then I have a different machine. So the Mac that you see behind me is my personal work machine. So I leave this system, I go to the different table if I have to work on my stuff. So that machine does not have anything work related. So even if I'm working something digitally on my laptop, it has to be a different system. I know if you can't afford at this moment, then I would just say just take a pause, create a different user on the same system, and start working there. But I would suggest more I'll incline more towards suggesting after, just when you're clocking off work, don't start your own personal work. Just take a 1 or 2 hour break, do some stuff, work on like exercise or whatever, go talk to friends or do whatever you want, but don't sit at the computer. So that way you are physically breaking the loop of sitting at the desk, and then you are mentally recharged. Then if even if you want to go back to your side project or whatever you want to do on a computer, you can actually do that. Yeah.
Okay. And Sanket is asking that my 1-year-old daughter keeps walking into my room. How do I explain to her Papa is working?
Yeah, okay.
I
I
can
have
answer
no
that. Like
idea.
you can't explain to
You
kids.
you can't explain to kids. I have no idea how to deal with that. He should have thought before having the kid, but but then he has a kid now. I have no idea how to do that. Parents will have tough time working from home. Since I am not a parent, I have no clue how to get around it. Kids are addicted to tech. Kids are addicted to phones, PS4. Just buy them those stuff, so they are busy. I think just make them busy. Since I'm not a man, I have no idea how to make them busy. So I'll pass on that.
Yeah. And Sid is asking that remote collaboration is mostly short and transactional. How to deal with that? That's mostly that there's more to figure out than just productivity, right? So how
So
to deal
it
with
is. It
short term.
feels it's transactional. It You have to stick through it. You have to look for a better team, better company who adopts remote, who has better remote culture, uh, who has invested in making the communication thing very seamless and very friendly. So when you're just moving from an office desk to a remote setup or a work from home setup, it might feel that, oh fuck, I lost my face to face ability. So it might seem very transactional and short term, but it's actually not if the company has invested. So it's like any other company culture. When you apply for a job, you're going to the company, you look for the culture, right? After the first day, you say, oh dude, you know what, the company has a great culture. So you need to feel that in the remote setting as well. And there's very less you can do on this. It's mostly on the part of the leadership. So uh, for uh, for it to feel less transactional and less short term and more long term, companies need to invest in the cultures. And culture, when I say that,
Okay.
everybody has to think remote, everybody has to be remote. It can't be that only the CEO is remote or the leadership is remote and the rest of the people are going to the office. Because I heard that some of the companies here in Bangalore have not been shut down, and employees are really going and working from the offices. And I'm sure, if I could be wrong, but I'm guessing that leadership is again sitting back at home and they are working remotely. So then that creates that difference, and people start thinking that it's short and transactional. Yeah.
And Michael asked that how often do you use visual media and asynchronous communication methods like video, screen recordings? You have already answered that, but yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, just take a call on how your team members are working, people who are collaborating with how they are working, and based on that, just take a call. Do you need to share the links of the designs and include the uh, strategies that you have taken to get to those design variations? You need to write a lot. Communication is very big in remote. Um, Communication is very important in remote, so you have to be very aware. Think twice before hitting send. Check your grammar, spelling, reread what you have written before sending again. Make sure the links are correct, because what happens, you send the link and then you go offline, right? Or you leave your desk
Yeah.
for coffee break. So uh, these are again comes under basics of remote job. But again, decide at your discretion or when you want to do synchronous and asynchronous. And not, it's just not you, both of the parties who like you and the other person, they both have to be comfortable in whatever format you choose. It can't be that you're a manager or someone is an IC, you're just calling them for face-to-face calls every time. So that's not going to work. That will most probably frustrate the IC. Yes.
Okay, so this is the last question that we'll be taking from the crowdsourced data, and then we'll take questions from here. So Sudeep has this question that how do you guys manage time zone conflicts? How to know how much time overlap among cross-functional teams are required to run smoothly?
So when you're just looking for this remote job, you're going to join. Just make sure you are fully aware of who are the people. As I said, who are the people who you're going to collaborate with on a day basis. What are their time zones? When do they come online? And how to know about this is like when you go to an interview, the company side will ask you to talk with other team members, right? So you can also ask in return that, okay, who are the people I'll be going to work with if I join you guys? So can I have a word with these people as well? And then just clarify, when do you work? When do you come online? What are the red flags that you think for you working remotely? And this will be very clear to you to gauge. Yes.
And now we can take questions from here. Meher is asking that generally we have tools to measure task and time for remote team, but I
Mhm.
really see a team using tool to measure moods and or emotions. So your thoughts here?
So tools, I don't know any tools to measure moods or emotions. So I'll just highlight one thing here is that when people go remote, they think everything has to. They need tools. Everything now for everything, they need tools, which is not the case. So, for example, if you are unhappy for your manager's comment that day in the office, what you do, you go above the managers, you go to the manager's boss, and you just explain your emotion. You just mention what you're feeling, and this shouldn't have been said, so and so forth. So in when you go remote, when you're working digitally, it is pretty much the same thing. And it again boils down to the culture. If your boss or boss's boss is open to feedback, open to calls about these things, so you can actually measure moods or emotion, but you can't highlight that on a bigger level or the company level. You have to involve people on a day-to-day basis by doing calls or doing Q and A's, sending out survey forms, and then there would be the leadership will get a general idea of what the current scene is for employees, how their moods are, how their emotions are. But again, you have to express yourself if you're working remotely. There are no tools.
And Shreyas is asking that why, according to you, MNCs are resistant to remote working. What can Indian employees do to have equal remote working rights as their foreign counterparts?
Um, Reject Modi. I have no idea. Mostly MNCs, as I said, the maturity of the Indian IT industry is very different than how it's in the West. So the company, and it won't happen overnight. And there's There's tons and tons of education that needs to go in there for these MNCs, the leadership of these MNCs, to understand the value of remote work. For example, the uh, micromanagement, for example, is a big blocker for going remote. It will just fail the whole company. So the education needs to be there. The attitude shift needs to come in. The trust factor needs to come in. And I see, I think most of the leaderships and most of the MNCs lack all these. That's why they are not going remote. They want to retain control. I think that would be my take on that. Yes.
Okay. And Varun is asking that, have you ever thought of starting something of your own, or and will you prefer a remote setup for your own venture?
So we have been, there are a couple of friends of mine who keep doing side projects. I think every designer and developer these days keeps doing side projects somewhere here and there. But where I'm at now is I will do stuff, but if it grows bigger, if it starts paying my bills, if it starts paying my salary, I'll keep it remote. Yes, after working remotely for these many years, even if something works for me, I will keep it remote. Yeah, because I wouldn't want to lose
And
my house. I wouldn't want to lose my comfort. I wouldn't. Why would
sure.
I spend like lakhs rupees for and rent an office and then go every day in Bangalore traffic? Doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Rajat is asking that how to go for ideation session remotely.
So this needs to be changed a little. You have to tweak it because ideally people get in rooms and then think about these stuff. And you can still do that, but usually it doesn't work because when you're sitting in a physical room, somebody takes a lead, right? And what I have noticed in when you're doing it digitally, the lead doesn't come in naturally, right? Like where to start, what are the dots we need to connect. So what has worked in our favor is somebody will take charge of what needs to be done. So for example, I'm the designer of in the company, and every new feature I'll just take a day or two to just brainstorm. I'll do it on my end. I'll just look at the examples of how other products have done it, or just think logically, think from first principles what I can do, and just take notes. I'll make wireframes, I'll take notes, and then I'll go on a call with three people, three or four people, whoever is going to be involved in developing and designing this whole feature set. And then the brainstorm session actually happens because I have already stuff, I'm leading it, and I have stuff for them to go on. Otherwise, if you just you can try it, I might be wrong, happy to be proven wrong, but you can sit do a Zoom call with four people, and I think the needle will barely move. So you need to be
So
prepared. My
this
short
question,
answer. Yeah.
yeah, hope that answers the question. My this question is coming from me that apart from having a separate desktop for your own personal things, having a Pomodoro time, physical Pomodoro timer, and a glass of water at your workspace, right? What's your other workspace hacks that helps you in your day-to-day job?
So I think I was mentioning this to Satoshi the other day. It doesn't come into hacks. I would say okay, hacks in a way that have a monitor from your company. But my guess is the companies might not give you the monitors for this short span of time because they would say,
Mm-hmm.
"Coronavirus will go tomorrow. You can come back to the office." But if you really care about your physical health and the posture that you're sitting in, it has to be upright. The monitor has to be on the eye level. Minimum one hand distance should be there between you and the screen. uh, you should invest in a good screen. But if you don't want to spend in a laptop stand, so it raises the screen to your eye level. So that's one of the hacks that I've done here. Then uh, get a standing desk if you can afford. Sometimes I just so this one, the one I'm sitting at, is a standing desk. Sometimes you stand and work. There's no proven record of that standing actually improves your physical health or something. It just helps me move. That's all. I'm sitting, I'm standing, just helping me move a little. That's all. But if that's not the cost you want to spend just to stand and sit, it's perfectly fine. Then what else? Make sure the room is always lit. Right now it's not because I'm not working. I'm just chatting. Daylight has to be proper in the room, whichever room you're working. The room should have light. I see a lot of people just using table light. That is not good for the eyes, basically, because just eliminating the desk. Basically, the light should come from all direction to the screen and then reflect to your eyes. So make sure you have you use bulbs and tube lights. You just light up the whole room, not only the desk. That's mostly for the desk hacks, but there are do's and don'ts for other, like for different categories. Like make sure you have a proper internet connection. Put your internet, because in India people lose internet connection quite frequently. Like the light will go off and the Wi-Fi will be gone for a minute or two, and that will create another that'll just take up another 10-15 minutes of the call. So put your internet on Wi-Fi, have a dongle. Make sure if you're going outside the city with the dongle thinking that you work from home, make sure it actually works there, or just apply for a leave because you won't be able to work there. This happened, and I've seen this couple of places too, that people just go with the dongle and then it doesn't work there at all. So yeah, there are good hacks. There are more hacks. I'm sure I'm forgetting right now. I'm anyway making post. I'm just jotting down these days all these things. I'll make sure I'll post it within a day or two or so, and we can send
Sure.
the link back.
Yeah, I think we have already passed the time because like it was a
Yeah,
1 hour session, but we
yeah,
have two more questions. I think, and then we can take the questions like offline, and then we'll post the questions, the answers to the questions
yeah,
somewhere in a blog post or something of that sort,
yeah.
right? So this is are designers more prone to mental health issues than other jobs?
No,
Abhishek is
everyone
asking that.
is no. Everyone is prone to mental health issues. You might be working
Okay.
in a as a CEO, and then your wife cheats on you. Then you have mental health issues. So no.
Okay. And Rajat is asking that night livers question: how to get up early when there is no reason of office in morning? An engineer designer story.
How to get up early when there is no reason of office in the morning. So your team will anyway decide. I am guessing that let's not do too much asynchronous. Let's do synchronous communication, and everybody has to come online at this time. I will suggest that because time zone difference is not there. So fix up a time. I am just guessing your team will set up a time, or your manager will be a little strict on you and will say that, oh, you're not online at 11 a.m. and I'm watching you, so you will have a good reason to go back online. But if you have a good manager and he doesn't watch you, or she doesn't watch you, your work timings, you really don't need to wake up at a specific time. Wake up whenever you want, but make sure you deliver the job, deliver on the job. That's all. For managers out there, even as ICs, you can promote this as we all should focus on the work getting done, not when one is coming online or when one is logging out. But again, going back to the point of having a disciplined life, being more productive, you should at least sit at a ballpark of time and then clock off at a ballpark of time. It shouldn't be like you're starting one day at 1 in the noon and then working till 8 or 9. Yeah. So yeah. Anyone
Cool.
else have any other quick question? I think we can take one or two more.
Yeah. If you have any questions, yeah. Else we can have it offline and we'll post somewhere, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I have
Like,
kind of like,
sorry, there was
yeah.
one question which
Yep.
said, how do you keep yourself updated to design trends?
Oh,
It was
sorry.
there in
Yeah.
the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Right.
kind of
Right.
missed that.
Yeah. So similarly, how you do it in the office, I'm sure if you say, for example, you just work with 5 designers in your office, the 5 designers is not a good set to be updated with design trends. You obviously look on the internet, and that's what even I've been doing. to stay up to date with the design trends. I'll read blogs. I'll go to the design events, couple of here in Bangalore, but right now you can't do that. So I'll just suggest to stick with online blogs. That's how most of the designers these days are self-taught. So I'll just say that I'll just mention to stay updated via the internet. That's all you can do actually, and I think that's pretty much sufficient. Yeah.
Well, I guess we don't have any more questions. If ever you have, you can post it like either to me or to Sankalp. So I
Sure.
kind of have some takeaways for me. So I'll just quickly reiterate on that. So the first one is that don't leave any room for interpretation if ever you're doing remote work. And the second one is maintain a single source of truth. And the third one goes as mental health. It's very important. Take care of that. Divide your work in shorter sprints and take breaks in between. And over communication is way better than no communication. And set boundaries for yourself. Have a start and a logout time. And if ever you are a design leader or a design manager, everyone has to think remote. So these are kind of my takeaways. So if ever you have anything to add to that, I'll be posting that somewhere, either as a blog post or something of that sort, and we'll also share the video for this. So if ever you have to add anything that you have taken away from this video, you can share it with us or anywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything that you want to add, Sankalp?
I think only that since most of us are going to be working remote for quite some time now, just stay disciplined, primarily focus on the health, stay away, keep the social distancing, maintain the social distancing thing. And yes, there are tons of resources online too for remote work. How to excel at it, how to manage the team of say 5 or 20 people. There are tons and tons of resources. You will get better at it, but you don't need to panic that, oh, I'm losing on my ICs and the team is not working. Definitely team will not be working for the first few weeks or month, but then you'll get better at it. You just need to place some good rules for remote work. That's all I think.
And if anyone has anything to add, you can add it here. Please go forward. Like we'll have 5 more minutes, I guess.
Yep. Okay.
Anyone? Okay.
Okay, I think we're pretty much done.
Cool. Please share the feedback, like how was the session, how can we improve, and all of that. That will be really helpful. This is our first session, kind of. So we'll require your feedback. Please share that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining. Good night.
Thanks for joining. Yeah.
Right, thank you so much.
Hope this is of some help for you.
Yep. I hope.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Sankalp.
Bye bye. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye bye.